Well, interest rates haven't been cooperative this year, but it looks like there's some hope right around the corner. Welcome to the holiday season. Welcome to the holiday season with the start of Thanksgiving tomorrow. Listen, before we get started on our segment today, let me just say this. You know what? The holiday season brings a lot of emotions to a lot of different people. For me, it's a little different because it's my first holiday season without my son. Secondly, there are others that around you that might be suffering in silence and you just don't know about it. So, pay attention to the signs. A lot of times, all people need is someone to talk to. Someone to talk to. It's that easy. So, you know what? Help a friend. Okay, so let's start with your questions, by the way. Steve Rockefeller here, your favorite mortgage guy with CMG Home Loans. Let's get ready to get into this holiday season. All right, Steve, you always say there's 100 pennies in a dollar. How come you bring that up? You brought that up last week and the week before. And here, this is what I'm going to say. Because if it sounds too good to be true, it must be. How many times have you gotten something in the mail that looks like something's too good to be true and you just threw it away? Well, okay, that's kind of the norm. It's called a teaser. And it's just like interest rates. You guys are watching the same TV shows I am. So, or the news shows that I am, and you know that rates aren't 3.99. You know they're not even 4.99. So stop looking at the junk mail. Stop taking the phone calls from these people that are going to promise you something that they're not going to be delivered, and just call me, and I'll get you straight on the rates. Steve, how do I protect my family from death and taxes? Okay, that's a simple question. It's actually not. But really what it is, it's a little more detailed question. In just a minute, we're going to talk more about that. Should I pay extra on my mortgage to reduce the balance, including paying large sums towards the balance? It's a personal decision. You can only do it on a conventional loan. If you want the mortgage payment to be recast, you can pay it on any loan. But if you want the mortgage payment to be recast, it's only on conventional loans. I keep getting these refinancing offers that plays into the 100 pennies in a dollar scenario. And Steve, tell me about renovation loans. Okay, renovations. Here's the best example I can give you. Let's say you've lived in your house a long time and you want to move. And what you have found is what you have to sell, you can't find on the other side because it's going to cost you $300,000 more. Or let's say it costs you $200,000 more, but you got to put 150 into it. So why should you sell? Because you've got a nice house and you can't afford to buy the next one. But what you can do is you could completely renovate your house for about $100,000, somewhere along in there. And all you got to do is refinance. Plus, you can pay off some non-tax deductible debt, and you got kind of a new place to stay. Or if you want to add a mother-in-law suite to the house or add a second floor, whatever you want to do, call me. Let me talk to you more about it. So can you believe it's November? Just last week I told you time flies. It was going to be the end of November. Then it was going to be the end of December. And then we're going to talk about, oh my gosh, it's 2025 already. So listen, see what I mean by time flies when you're having fun? Here we've been through all kinds of stuff this year, not to mention the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the floods, the this, the that, the elections. Here we are. It's almost in. And guess what? We survived. We survived. So, you know what? Here's what I mean by time flies. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I can't believe it myself. So listen, the bond, it's reacting like a crazy ostrich. You've seen those commercials. Those things zoom around and they dig their head in the sand. The market is swinging with improvement, which is a great sign because it's starting to look for signs of reasons why it should improve. So example, core inflation, that's starting to improve. That's one of the fundamentals that the Fed uses, and they like what they're seeing. However, consumer confidence, unemployment, consumer spending, they're the outliers right now. So when you have better rates and people refinance, they tend to spend money. So their consumer confidence goes up, but it's also about jobs. So we're kind of hoping that stuff improves in the near future. So back to how do I protect my family from any kind of calamity, whether it's death, whether you get a trust or a will. I'm a mortgage expert. I'm not a lawyer, but my good friend Scott Alperin, he's a lawyer. So Scott, just so you know, he's a 30-year practicing attorney, and he's in many facets such as trust and will family legacy planning, tax planning, and real estate law. He's my go-to guy. So Scott, tell me something. How can we help people, and do they need a trust?
Hey, Steve. Thanks for the question. You know you're my favorite mortgage guy, right? Anyhow, you asked why do you need a trust? And that's a question I get quite often from my clients. And the answer is you don't always need a trust. There are a lot of attorneys that think everyone should have a trust, but it's not always the right vehicle for an estate plan. There are several options when it comes to planning your estate. A trust is one of those options. There's also a will. There are beneficiary designations. There are titling of assets. Each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. And the important thing to do is to come in and meet with an attorney to determine what's best for you and your family before you make a decision. Hopes that answer your question. More to come.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Scott. That's Scott giving us his expert opinion. But listen, he's not done yet. By the way, did I tell you Scott's also an author? So the question you have is, how do I save my family taxes if I die? Because nobody wants to pay the IRS. And if you didn't plan ahead, then you need to plan now. So Scott, how do they save their family some taxes on income in an event something happens?
Okay, Steve. So the question is, how do I save on taxes? And I guess specifically if you want to say income taxes. And here's the answer. The best way to save on taxes is to meet with a tax attorney prior to the end of the year so that you can look at what opportunities there are to minimize taxes before it's too late. Most CPAs don't even meet with their clients before the end of the year to determine what they need to do to save taxes. They simply report the income that the client generated at the end of December 31st and tell them what taxes they owed. If you do proactive tax planning and use opportunities that a good tax attorney can advise you on before the end of the year, you can reposition some things and take some actions that will save you on taxes and put you in a better tax position. Hope that answers your question, and you're always my favorite mortgage guy.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Scott. Guys, listen, I'm going to provide all of Scott's information down below. Of course, you've got all my information along the sides and down at the bottom, and I'll get Scott's information in this video for you because you know what? It doesn't hurt to call it. I told you he's an author. He also does webinars on this kind of stuff. He does in-person seminars. He's got a great studio for that. And it's easy and it's affordable. So the markets tomorrow are closed, but they're open Friday, but nobody's working. You know why? Because it's an off day for the market. So you're probably going to start seeing now the market start improving a little bit. We're seeing that now. However, one of the things the holiday also does is it leaves people to take some time off. It's important to take that time off to get your mental process in line. But want to know something else? As rates start to improve, people start buying houses. So stop waiting. Let's get into the pre-approval fight now. Guys, if you've got family members, friends who are thinking about buying, you need to get them to call me now. I had 3 people call me this week that have been waiting all summer to buy. You know why they were waiting? They didn't know themselves. Now they just all of a sudden decided, oh, I'm going to buy. Now, maybe it's a mental decision. Maybe they need to figure out where they're going to come up with a down payment if they need to come up with something. Maybe they need to worry about their credit. Maybe they're getting divorced. Maybe they're getting married. Maybe whatever. Maybe. My point is, get into the qualification fight now because sellers are not accepting pre-qualification letters. They're accepting pre-approval letters, which means we've got to go the extra mile to get your loan approved. So let's get in that fight now because here's what's going to happen. Prices are going to start going back up. You know why? Because there's not going to be any supply, but there's plenty of demand. New homes, always a great investment. You can pick everything but your neighbors, including your closing date. So get into that fight now. Those of you who are waiting, stop waiting. Let's get into the fight. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up by saying this. A ton of you this week have called me and asked me questions about refinancing. Yes, it is time to get back into the refinancing fight. You know why? Because if you locked in a year ago, you got a rate that's like 7.75% or 8%. It's now time. Rates are starting to become meaningful. We as an industry feel like that they're going to start coming down in a meaningful way after the first of the year. Get into it now so that we can get the appraisal ordered and get in line, because you don't have to lock in right now, but the faster you get in, the easier it's going to be. So guys, listen, I want you to remember what we started with at the beginning of the segment. Pay attention to your friends and your family members. If something doesn't seem right, just go talk to them. It's tough, especially if you've lost somebody this year. It's tough to think about. And you know what? Everybody suffers in silence. It's just that simple. So, guys, I hope you have a phenomenal Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in December, because that's next week. Bye now.